and gentlemen, boys and girls, hard mode gamers, all over Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, everywhere that we are actually at. It is finally that day. That day is the day that we actually get some reactions to some of the content that guys that are explaining some of the games that we've played here on Twitch, but also some of the reactions from myself personally on games that we have played with my Bad Gamer Bias review, which I think is going to be a very awesome series because it's not, hi, I'm an expert of the game. Hi, I know everything about this. Hi, I've modded this and seen the actual code for the game and know literally all of the answers. So what you guys are going to see with all of these series is reactions from me based on the games that we played, my ranking system on most of the games. And in this case, today, it's going to be a reaction to a content creator named Vaati, which in my opinion is probably the keeper of lore for Dark Souls, based on some of the videos that the channel has requested in the past after we finished certain titles. We did just complete Dark Souls 1. That was my first time ever playing Dark Souls 1. I missed that bus that had all of the Dark Souls fans on it when it came through the first time. So we just beat it, and I'd like to see Vaati's understanding and his explanation of what happened in Dark Souls. Now, I do understand, and before everybody comes with pitchforks and torches and stuff about the Dark Souls lore, I do understand that FromSoft is very, very clear. Everything is not specific. It's not in stone. Nothing that we do in the game or nothing that happens is anything more than up for interpretation. However, almost every video that we've seen from Vaati so far has at least had time, effort, statistics, and real knowledge back behind all of his reviews, his understandings of things. So without anything further, we're going to jump into my Bad Gamer reaction to Dark Souls Explained from Vaati. And if I do pause a couple of times, I guess deal with it, because we did just get done playing the game and I have some very strong opinions on some of the stuff that happened lore-wise in the game. Let's do it.
After you finish a Souls game, you have questions. Why am I on fire? What's the point of locking myself in this cave? Which ending is the right one? And, of course, the age-old question, why do they call him Big Hat Logan? First, let's start with the player character. Who is the chosen undead? Well, they are who you make them. Whether you were a thief or a knight, from Astora or Katarina, it doesn't matter. What's important is that you ended up in a cell at the right place and the right time. For you head to Lordran in accordance with an old legend that speaks of a mission for a chosen undead hero. This legend is, by the way, most likely a deception by the gods, probably designed to lure powerful heroes to Lordran, but we'll get to that later. Is there a world outside Lordran? Lordran is just the land of the gods, and there is a wider world of man with many more countries therein. The fate of the world largely revolves around Lordran though, so we never go to these other places. But the characters we do meet in Lordran often hail from these foreign countries, and you can tell that they've been designed to be accurate characterizations of their homelands.
So, to point that out too, I did find that kind of funny. The fact that all of these, like Onion Bro, Sun Bro, the Pyromancers, everybody else that's along the way to help out and help complete the mission. The one thing Vaati did just say that I noticed is that we really don't stray outside of the main prerogative, like the main directive that we have as the chosen undead, right? It kind of feels like to me, based on that point of what he's talking about, is that you're thrown in these situations and you're one in a million. And the only reason you become chosen is because you made it to where you need to make it to be called chosen or to have that mantle. But it does seem like even the other characters that are there, it doesn't seem like happenstance that we run into them. It's almost like they are the little bits and pieces of twisted humanity based on the larger lie that is getting us to progress to the goal that the gods wanted us to, which again goes back to the deception of Gwyn. Let's keep going. Keep talking to me, Vaati.
What you're seeing on screen are the results of an art competition to depict these foreign places. So check out that video if you're interested, and subscribe to see the next competition really soon. How did this world come to be? Originally, the world had no disparity. Everything was just rock, from the land to the trees to the dragons. It was homogeneous, static, without beginning or end. Then, similar to the Big Bang, fire suddenly came to exist.
And we did see this in Dark Souls 1, when you take off down the tree and go down to where the ancient dragon was, and you cut his tail off and get the the weapon from it. You see a glimpse of this in DS1, and in Remastered, it looked great. It was really cool, actually.
And it disrupted this eternal monotony. Now, there wasn't just existence, but there were states of existence. Heat and cold, light and dark, life and death. The result was a rock universe gradually changing into the world as you see it in-game, including its overabundance of souls. What is a soul? So when fire came to be and permeated the universe, so did souls. Thus, the soul is the power of disparity itself. They are the means by which the first flame changed the universe, and paradoxically, they are both the fuel and the byproduct of that fire. Similar to in Demon Souls, a soul gives you clarity, allowing you to think, but also life, allowing you to be.
Now, I haven't played Demon Souls yet. Again, our first run-in, just to give people some backstory on this, our first run-in with Dark Souls was actually Dark Souls 3. On my channel on Twitch, we let everybody on the channel vote for a game that they want us to play. Dark Souls 3 was my first one. It kind of jaded my perception of Dark Souls 1, honestly, and I feel like if I could go back and do it again, I would have done those in reverse order. But the fact that I haven't played Demon Souls leaves it kind of up for, like, interpretation on where the starting point was for everything, and we still haven't played 2. So I understand that this video is more or less just like a basic fundamental concept of Dark Souls, which is what I'm trying to get to. So if you see me just kind of eye roll or lose attention a little bit when they're talking about anything that has to do with Demon Souls or Dark Souls 2, I'm still in the dark with that. So I'm literally learning based on what Vaati's telling us for this.
And just as there are all kinds of life, there are all kinds of souls, of various shapes, sizes, and magical affinities. Many bosses are these special beings with special souls, and the most powerful beings are the lords, bearing lord souls. Who are the lords, and what is a lord soul? The 4 lords are the first kings. They were all attracted to the first flame, having only ever known darkness before coming upon it. Each one discovered this massive concentration of Disparity's power near the flame, which they then used to establish a kingdom under their rule. Thus, these massive souls are called Lord Souls. Of these 4 souls, Karth tells us that the pygmy found the Dark Soul, and it follows that the other Lord Souls all aligned with the other aspects of Disparity. So in contrast, Gwyn found the Light Soul, Nito found the Death Soul, and the Witch of Izalith found the Life Soul. These souls came to define them, and they would soon ally together to challenge the everlasting dragons. What is an everlasting dragon? So they're a part of the original race of dragons that predate life itself. Much like there are wyverns and worms, there are also ancient dragons, or archdragons, as...
That is actually the one from Dark Souls 1 that I was talking about. And it was crazy to walk up to him and not get smited. Like, I was like, oh man, we're in for a fight. That dragon looks very upset and old.
Later games coin it. Their race is the progenitor to all other dragon subspecies, and these are subspecies that adapted really well to a new world and new environments. You
fuck that dragon, by the way.
still face some archdragons in-game, but these archdragons never are the original generation of archdragons that actually predate fire. The ancient dragons are commonly described as everlasting, thanks to their stone scales of undeath granting them immortality. However, when Gwyn learned that his bolts of lightning could peel apart those scales, the lords used their full might to hunt down the archdragons to nigh extinction, ushering in the Age of Fire. What is the Age of Fire? It's the era you find yourself in. It was sparked when the lords defeated the archdragons, and even as far back as them finding their lord souls could be denoted as the dawn or beginning of the Age of Fire. So what follows is this period dominated by the lords. Much of this epoch is also denoted as the Age of Gods, since the 3 lords residing in Lordran with their fellow deities are on the rise or at their zenith during it. However, this golden age can only continue so long as fire at the source of the god's power remains strong. But eventually, fire will fade, and only darkness will remain. This, quote, is what Karth describes as the logic of the world. And when that happens, the gods are supposed to be replaced, and their Age of Fire is supposed to become an Age of Dark. In the original Dark Souls, you find yourself at this crossroad. The first flame is about to go out. Even now, its power is barely reaching the world of man, and what follows is a proverbial night. And in this twilight era, the undead curse runs rampant. Okay, so...
I do want to take a second to like explain my thoughts on this quote unquote undead curse, right? In my Dark Souls 3 playthrough, in my Dark Souls 1 playthrough, we chose not to relight the fire. Because I feel that through the game, if you're paying enough attention, and based on what happened in Dark Souls 1 for our playthrough and what we did in Dark Souls 3 with the Lord of Hollows ending, that a lot of what Gwyn was trying to do is unnaturally expand the course of time and the course of the age. And you can see when you play Dark Souls 3 what happens near the end of the game while the fire itself is fading out completely. And it's up to us to re-originate like the age of fire for them, but this entire age is trying to self-destruct itself to move on. The natural order and the way things seem that they're supposed to happen is that that age of dark is supposed to come back. But just like the Firekeeper says in Dark Souls 3, after you don't, in one of the endings, she says, I see the sparkling fires and sparkling embers around the horizon. Like, it's just going to restart itself when the Age of Fire restarts. But these guys unnaturally wanted to just make their age last longer. Keep their entities, their family, their things in power, and never let go. So a lot of what he's saying, when they start talking about the pygmies, they start talking about the Dark Soul itself, kind of seems like that's the check on power, is what the Dark Soul was for. And I feel like Gwen knew this.
What is the undead curse? Ever since the first flame began to wane, a dark ring of fire has manifested upon the bodies of certain humans, a sign of the dark burgeoning within them. This dark sign marks you as an ageless immortal, though your endless revival comes at the cost of your own souls and sanity until you eventually hollow. What caused the undead curse? This question is at the very heart of this series, and the answer is really quite complex. You'll have a better time with this though if you're familiar with all three games. So when the world first began, a creature called the Pygmy found the Dark Soul. Who they were isn't known, nor is it really important. What is important is that they split the Dark Soul into fragments, and these fragments came to be known as humanity, which is a small black spirit found within every human. Karth refers to the furtive Pygmy as your ancestor. Thus, we are descended from one of the four lords. These games frequently question whether the dark force within humans is a positive or a negative thing. Your adventure through Ulasil in the Artorias of the Abyss DLC is a great example of that. Here, the
Very badass fight, by the way.
darkness within man has gone wild. It's endlessly consuming and corrupting the land and the souls of people around it. And yet,
So I don't know if he meant to do that, but those last two frames in this enemy are a result of the abyss. The darkness of the abyss, which, if I'm not mistaken, and this is just my take on it, based on what I talked to Chad about and what we spoke about throughout our playthroughs, the darkness from the abyss seems like a very different darkness than what originates inside of the Dark Soul. Like, the power of the Dark Soul happens to be an immortality to be there when the fire goes away. It's the sign of what's to come to the other lords, right? That's the way I saw it. They were very clear on, you're the marked target from Gwyn. Essentially, you're the thing he fears. These came from the Abyss, which I kind of feel like is two different things. I may be wrong, but just my read on it was like, Artorias needs a ring to transverse the Abyss, but when in terms of darkness, like, we freely move throughout all of these worlds as a human, essentially, or as an undead. I feel like those are two different things.
there is dialogue here that's supposed to give you pause.
I still think on that creature from the abyss that preyed upon me. My faculties were far from lucid, but I quite clearly sensed certain emotions. A wrenching nostalgia, a lost joy, an object of obsession, and a sincere hope to reclaim it. Could these thoughts belong to the beast from the abyss? But if that were true, then perhaps it is no beast after all.
This same duality is seen in the descriptions of dark magic, which are spells that are often driven by powerful emotions, positive things like love and calm, or negative things like hate and envy. But whether it's positive or negative, Gwyn's pantheon fears the dark, for one day, as we mentioned earlier, their age of fire is going to end, and only dark will remain. This was the logic of the world, until Gwyn committed the first sin, and he shackled the darkness within man. This was a revelation we received in the Ringed City DLC, where the seal of fire around darkness on the dark sign was finally explicitly stated to be a creation of the gods. So for some, like Manus in the first DLC, repression of their humanity causes it to writhe and go mad. However, this seal of fire was placed upon mankind so early in their existence that, for most people, their shackles are all that they know. As a result, and this is really important, humankind end up living their lives through souls that they hold completely separate from the humanity that's within them. You only have to look to the white souls of adventurers that you find in-game as proof of that. Living like this is the lie that Aldia talked about in Dark Souls 2.
All men trust fully the illusion of life. But is this so wrong? A construction, a facade, and yet a world full of warmth and resplendence. Now, Hollow, are you intent on shattering the yoke, spoiling this wonderful falsehood?
So again, haven't played Dark Souls 2. However, chat talked a lot about the lore implications for the overall Dark Souls universe that you can find in Dark Souls 2. I'm very excited, and I realize that it's not the super most popular of the Dark Souls trilogy for 1, 2, and 3. But now that I've finished 1 and 2, I feel like some of these answers that I'm missing with the story itself are hidden in this game. And I very much look forward to completing it, because it seems like Aldia, the couple of times that he's been brought up to me personally in chat or in Vaati videos that I've seen from the other games, he kind of knows things. Like, he is this primordial entity that understands what the lie actually was.
But in retrospect, the most chilling dialogue Aldia has was this.
Once, the Lord of Light banished dark and all that stemmed from humanity. And men assumed a fleeting form.
We're led to believe that the dark sign cursed humanity with undeath, but Aldia's dialogue means this can't be true. Instead, Aldia says mankind's lives became fleeting when they were branded with the dark sign. So this means that they were originally immortals, and indeed this is the state that you return to when you hollow. What is hollowing? Humanity once stood proud within every human, but when the curse was put upon them, humanity became bound, lost, and repressed. So during this age of fire, humanity came to rely heavily on their white soul for their sense of self, and we can see this in the names of these souls. When fire fades, the seal of fire restraining the dark grows weaker. Thus, when fire fades, it follows that our dark soul starts to break free, consuming the white soul that we've come to believe is the self, and this process of losing the self is called hollowing. Dying or losing heart, it accelerates this process. So, an undead must maintain physical and mental fortitude in order to resist this process. However, as you might remember, the Hollows of Londor in Dark Souls 3 believe that their hollow states are really the most honest shape of man. This isn't an easy truth to face, especially since the Dark Soul has become this ravenous, repressed thing. To stay sane as a hollow, one may need to drain the life of others, and the Hollows of Londor are universally reviled as a result of this. Ultimately, it just leaves you wondering whether this is really the best path for mankind, or whether it's better to just accept the shackles of the gods, or whether humanity's fate has been stolen by the curse, either way.
That comes to a really honest question, though, too. Because, again, nothing's in stone. Vaati's giving his best understanding of what he thinks things mean, what they equate to. Hey, stupid! Roscoe, you can't get it. Hey, that's enough. Good lord. But in that reference, when they talk about how reviled the hollows are from Londor, honestly, where does the free choice and free thinking come from? They have and are reviled because of the beliefs that they have that letting go of the actual humanity is the path because you get your own free thoughts back. You don't have to abide by the shackles of the gods. But what Vaati just said is, it's kind of making the conscious decision on, are those shackles good or bad based on the lie? Which is FromSoft putting up the perplexing, you make the decision, you decide whether or not having a mind and being immortal is better than having your humanity. But that humanity is shackled by a lie from the gods. Kind of both sounds kind of dark, and kind of both don't sound like they're great ways to proceed with everything, but hey, it's Dark Souls. Like, everything in here wants you to die, and or is dead already, and also wants you to die. So.
How do we cure the undead curse? Well, curse is an actual affliction, just like poison or toxin. You can experience its build-up in-game, and what this curse does is it locks the dark soul away from the self. It's really about the barrier, it's about the separation, and the Dark Sigil explains this. It says that as humanity leaks out, the curse accumulates in exchange. Unfortunately, humans are helpless against curses, and all we can do is redirect their influence. For example, when you use a purging stone, what you're doing is not actually curing the curse, you're actually just transferring the curse to this stone, and this stone was or is another person. In the original Dark Souls, we do something similar to this process called reverse hollowing. So this is a process that requires you to have a humanity. And it's easy to assume that we're just absorbing the humanity and restoring our humanity, but what's actually happening here is kind of the opposite. Yes, a humanity sprite is taken into the self, but it then acts as a sort of surrogate for the curse, like a purging stone does, and remember, we offer this humanity up to the bonfire. This keeps our white, regular soul safe, and it prevents us from going hollow. Further proof of this dynamic exists in Dark Souls 2, where using a human effigy is just like transferring your curse to a human surrogate. And in Dark Souls 3, we found the Purging Monument, which is this enormous vessel that's overflowing with offered curses. Why did the gods curse humanity? So the logic of the world denotes that fire will fade and only dark will remain. Naturally, Gwyn feared this and managed to enforce a fleeting form upon humanity. The fate of mankind became irreversibly linked to fire, and thus the logic of the world was changed forever. What is the fire linking? It's a ritual for preserving the first flame. With the decline of fire and the rise of the dark and undeath, the gods were thrown into disarray, and the Lord's peaceful relations ultimately collapsed. Before things broke down, however, they concocted a plan to revive the first flame with a powerful soul, cultivated through firekeepers and undead bonfires. This soul would link itself to the fire, and the fire would inherit a new fuel. So Gwyn was the first to link the fire, and many others have taken up the role since then. What is a bonfire? It's your safe haven. Undead bonfires are fueled by the bones of your own kind, and they're connected to the first flame as a part of a network through coiled swords.
That is something that I would like to bring up that I did notice in Dark Souls 1 that I kind of missed in Dark Souls 3. When you are utilizing humanity to kindle, the way that the game puts it to you is that you are kindling yourself because of the act, like what happens to you after you do it. If you notice in Dark Souls 1, the fire gets bigger when you do this. You are feeding these souls, these existences, and this humanity to the fire, which then makes it go nuts. It literally is telling you that these souls of all these other undead that you've killed, all these lords that you've killed, are fueling the reality. You become stronger through feeding this fire. So you're getting closer to an intended form, or you are just becoming the biggest battery ever to continue to fuel that fire. You're literally like a walking battery. You're collecting things to then sacrifice yourself to the fire to extend the age and run the fire for longer, is what you're doing.
The heat,
in my opinion,
that their flames produce heal our injuries and can be collected in a liquid form called Estus. As for warping, light is tied to time in this series, so You can reason that a bonfire's light allows you to warp across time and space to other bonfires in the network. Bonfires and their firekeepers promote undead reliance upon fire, and they promote fire's reliance upon undead. Thus, the gods are almost certainly behind their creation. As for who went out and placed them in the world, it's hard to say, but it seems like they can be placed anywhere where there are undead bones, since we create one ourselves in Firelink Shrine, and even in early versions of the game, you were supposed to be able to place them yourself. However, it's important to remember that bonfires are primarily a checkpoint mechanic, and gameplay can't always be explained away by lore. For example, you might think that all undead respawn at the bonfire just like you do, but they don't. According to the Crestfallen Merchant, what actually happens is that undead will lay dead for a while, and then later rise where they fell. What is a firekeeper?
That's interesting. So, that means that if you're completely undead, you don't have any other souls and you've completely expired, essentially. And you are being raised into the hollow form, which you have nothing. You then go, you're the starving, lost all relevance to humanity, all ties to it, and your only goal would be to just kill until you are killed again, kind of thing.
They're a woman who acts as the living incarnation of a bonfire in order to preserve its flame. So long as the firekeeper lives, so too does her corresponding bonfire.
Which would make you a mindless drone. Hold on. Holy revelation. So the point of that would be to make you undead, but also make you not thinking. So you just roam and then become a collectible option for someone who still has humanity. Which still makes the cycle, the circle, the dark sign, what's necessary. You then just become a smaller source. But you remain in the way of anybody else who would be trying to get where you were going. Huh.
And vice versa. These women are thus vessels for the countless humanity that is offered to the bonfire, which means that they receive the dark spirits along with the effects of the curse in the transfer. The humanity wriggles beneath their skin, nipping at body and soul, and this causes great pain and horrific scarring, though not at extremities like the head or the hands. Firekeepers bear this suffering so that you can benefit from the bonfire, and it's through them, and by extension the bonfires, that you can strengthen your soul with whatever traits you desire. So be sure to always thank your oh shit. What is wrong with you?
Gonna lie. I may have done this a couple of times. And that's where we learned that you are supposed to alt-tab back into game and not click. Moving on.
What is a god? Well, they're really whatever humans believe a deity to be. In most cases, the gods refers to members of Gwyn's pantheon, since they're the most widely worshipped in the world of man. But even those cast out, like Gwyn's firstborn, are still called a war god, simply because some people still worship them as such. However, just being worshipped doesn't mean that you have power. An example of this is Faris, who humans retroactively deified as the goddess of the hunt Evlana in Dark Souls 2. She was just a heroic bowwoman, but her story got twisted over the years until she became a god. People get kind of hung up on the god term because they're trying to define the race of beings that carry power in the series. For most of these characters, I quite like the term medial, which is a term proposed by Loki. What are medials? Well, many of the gods' followers and descendants aren't human, gods or giants, so we kind of have to make up a term for these beings. Medials is good. In terms of size, they're often between humans and giants, and these are beings like the daughters of Izalith, or Priscilla, and so on. What are the dead?
Who didn't do anything wrong, and we didn't engage in that fight, because she didn't do anything wrong. And fuck that, I have the choice.
The dead are corpses that decay without the power of life sustaining them. However, some, like skeletons, are often a product of necromancy, and there's evidence that others, like the ghosts of New Londo, become warped by the strong, lingering emotions of the deceased. What is a demon? Anything that can be loosely classified as a monster is called a demon, really. In most cases, though, demons refers to chaos demons who were born of the flame of chaos. But there are also Titanite demons, and Dark Souls 2 introduces covetous and smelter demons, as well as a demon of song. It's a common argument that
The fuck is that thing?
a demon in Dark Souls is a chimeric creature bearing the traits of multiple animals, but this isn't a given. What could be called crow demons are actually called crowmen or corvians. There are also snake men, maggot men, and lion men, all of whom are never called demons. Like with gods, the term is somewhat arbitrary. Basically, a demon is whatever humans would consider to be a monster. What is chaos? Chaos is the nature of fire and life. Life is rooted in the soul. The soul is a product of fire's disparity. Therefore, life, like disparity, is chaotic. The Witch of Izalith found the Lord Soul that represents this, and she tried creating her own fire of life to match that of the first flame. Unfortunately, this sparked a flame of chaos, which creates and transforms new, often grotesque forms of life. These became known as the Chaos Demons, and they threatened Gwyn's rule. So you'll notice that they're stamped out at every turn in all chapters of this series. The Witch of Izalith's yearning for flame became the basis for pyromancy, and pyromancy is one of her strongest surviving legacies. What is pyromancy? Pyromancy is a physical form of magic. Pyromancers carry along with them a piece of flame that's passed down from teacher to student, stretching all the way back to the witch and her daughters deriving the art from chaos and sharing that with the humans. Pyromancers then use that flame to conjure their spells, and despite the name, pyromancy isn't actually limited to casting fire, and it can actually conjure all kinds of elements like iron or poison. But these are rarer arts, since pyromancy is a religion that reveres flame. Just so, you can manifest pyromancies like miracles with your faith, or actually even learn to perform them like sorceries with your intelligence. What is sorcery? It's a mental form of magic. Sorcerers study the natural laws of the world to actually comprehend what they are and how they function. They then use this knowledge to manipulate their power and formulate the process as spells, which we call sorcery. They're basically magic scientists and academics, and there are sorceries from anything from souls to light to the dark of the abyss. What are miracles? They're a spiritual form of magic. You cast miracles by reciting legendary stories, which either feature the spell in question or embody what the miracle manifests. Most miracles are thereby based on the power of the Anor Londo gods, but there are also dark miracles and hexes that achieve similar results. Your faith in the story's truth makes it a reality. What is the Abyss? It's the power of the dark, and whether that's a pitch-black void, like the Realm of the Four Kings, a viscous dark swamp, like in the Ringed City, or a malformed pus, like the creatures of Lothric, the Abyss can manifest from any humanity, and it produces new life or twists old life into new forms. The Abyss is commonly unstable, and like with Manus in Ulasil, it can go wild, devouring and corrupting the souls of every other form of life.
Well, now again, this is the part that I'm confused about, and it's just me being confused because of what I saw in the game. If the Abyss is the emanation of what actually is the darkness, then there should be some tie with the Abyss to humanity, because it's the dark soul that we have. We are the other polarity of the fire and the light. So it bothers me that we become so consumed and it just ensues chaos from that, and that Artorias would need a ring to transverse the Abyss, and so would we. Maybe since Artorias was a Knight of Gwyn, and his job was to fight back the Abyss, then I could understand that he would need something like that. But for us, outside of the fact that we had just have gained all the humanity that we had, since we are the dark soul, like we are the Dark Soul, essentially, why would we not be able to, as humans, with the curse of humanity, be able to go in and function? Why wouldn't Manus have been able to go in and function as a human? So what's the point of the Abyss twisting and like fragmenting all of the conscious understanding that we have, if it is the basis of what we are there to do, which is to end the current age? It's a weird. Something doesn't make sense about that. I'm not saying Vaati's wrong, but I'm saying it doesn't make sense to me.
But it was not always this way. The gods placed a curse upon the Abyss, and while humans have largely lost connection with it, there are multiple sources that suggest the Abyss can offer great comfort to humankind. However, it appears that path was lost when the Abyss was banished, and now it simply hungers. What is Black Flame? Black Flame is the impenetrable fire of humanity, inspired by the power of our quote-unquote untouchable soul, in kind of a similar way to how pyromancy is inspired by Izalith's soul. What is the deep? As the age of dark continues to be delayed, some dark stagnates into the deep, and here the weight of humanity sinks into a horrific abyss, like a deep sea where no light reaches. Many worship the concept of the deep, as these dregs are seen as the bedrock of the world, and you can almost view the deep as a sort of abyssal religion. Its leader, Aldrich, concluded that if the world continued to darken, then there would eventually be an age of the deep sea. Why is time convoluted? With the first flame waning, the power of light also fades, and since light is related to time, the flow of time has stagnated in a land where the flame is located. Due to this instability, time spaces known as other worlds can randomly intersect here, and this allows you to briefly meet people from long before your timeline. And with the help of magic, you can cross the gaps between worlds, usually as spirits. Why is
That seems like time is a human construct. Maybe it's not so much. Well, no, because the way that Souls does it is people from the before times and then people after, right? But that's saying that the age of the dragons and the age of Gwen was that saying that like nothing aged, there was no time, there was no parallels from it. It was just that age because it was uncomplicated. However, since we've had people trying to relight the fire, Gwen, sacrificing himself to extend the age of fire, I think that would have a big thing to do with convoluting time as the construct, because that time was supposed to be up and he artificially changed the course of said time.
everything in the world hostile to me? After watching this video, you'll enjoy my video talking about all the bosses of Dark Souls 3 if you've played it. I'll just list a bunch of reasons on screen though, because every enemy does have a reason for attacking you, after all. Except Priscilla. I mean, why did you hurt her? That's actually really fucked up. What is the paint?
I didn't. Chat wanted me to fight her so bad, but like after understanding the story, I was like, why? Fucking why, actually, though. So, we didn't attack Priscilla.
Painted world. The first painting we're introduced to is the painted world of Ariamis, which is hung in an Orlando. It was a place to hide all the things that the gods feared, and so it's filled with many references to sin and the occult. In the Ashes of Ariandel DLC, we learn that the paintings are a mirror of the outside world, and so are burned and reborn to mimic the linking of the fire. Just so, there are those on the inside who would prefer to let the painting rot. only to learn that embers survive amongst the countless lords who linked the flame before you.
It almost feels like, because of Dark Souls 3, that at the end of whatever choice you make, the natural order will still continue. And the Firekeeper says it in Dark Souls 3. I see embers on the horizon. It will reinvent itself. It'll happen again. It just depends on if we want to extend the moment that we're in, or if we want to just let the natural progression move. Either way, Dark Souls is literally just saying, look, it's going to suck regardless. In some way, shape, or form, this is going to suck for somebody. It all depends on your choices with your moment, and how you perceive things needing to progress for you. Can you be selfish about it? Yeah. Can you not? Of course. But overall, in the grander scheme of things, it doesn't really change a whole lot.
Or do you betray her and take what fire remains all for yourself? You are unkindled ash, after all. What is unkindled ash? These are undead who previously tried and failed to link the fire. You weren't strong enough to bear the flame that you inherited, but you weren't weak enough to stay reduced to ash either, and so you became ash, devoid of flame, but still requiring embers as well as souls to heat your cold, cursed frame. Hence, unkindled are destined to seek the fire that remains in the world. How does the series end? Well, it ends with ash, literally. As the world burns out again and again, ash itself arises. This is a new being, a new species really, that's composed of 1,000 failures who had tried to link the fire over the years. But ash doesn't really belong in this world, and honestly, they have more in common with the beings of the painted world instead, where all of fire's discarded things reside. So, they fight for a new purpose, to reunite the Dark Soul and paint a new world with it, so that we can finally escape this ashen wasteland that Gwyn has created. So, a slave knight called Gale, hollowed beyond belief, sacrifices himself for a new world, and the painter paints a world called Ash, a cold, dark, and very gentle place. This video is too broad. I want specifics. Join the club, subscribe, check out other creators in this space, and enjoy endless hours of content that has been made in the years before you saw this video. Before I go...
That's the other thing. I feel bad for missing this whole series. I did not, because of where I was in my life at the time, being active duty with the Army, did not get a chance to enjoy this when it first came out, which I feel like I did a disservice to myself, because the world building, the lore being very sparse, and having to draw your own conclusions and figure out exactly what it is that you are trying to accomplish, that's something that I don't think I've seen in video games for a very long time. And we play mostly classic RPGs because those worlds drug you in, made you make conscious decisions or not. Hey, Roscoe! Kennel. Hey, no more. He's just randomly barking at cars. Sorry about that, guys. But I feel like I really did miss an opportunity to enjoy a game and enjoy a series because I missed this one. But just like Vaati said, it seems like when you're trying to be specific, it all just comes back to this is the natural order of things. This is, no matter what you do, you are just merely a small ripple in a large lake. And that kind of makes it feel the same as playing through some of the games does. Am I really affecting anything? I'm just becoming a battery. Or I'm just gaining power so I can lead more the other direction. But at the end, the grand scheme still even defeats the gods. So, fantastic fucking video from Vaati. I love his work. I don't think this is the last reaction to his videos that we'll do here on the channel. And this isn't necessarily a bad gamer bias review, but me just reviewing this and getting an idea from someone who's probably what I would consider the lore master, besides a couple of other guys that I've seen on YouTube. Vaati's explanations are very simple, as much as he possibly can. He does a fantastic job with them. With that, though, guys, I went way over the amount of time that I intended on for this. Thank you guys so much for being here for this. These series and the reactions are going to be something that we do a whole hell of a lot more of, because there are just some content creators responsible for making content on games that I've fallen in love with. Not just Vaati, but some other content creators as well. And I very much look forward to doing more of these. So for those of you guys that do find the video and appreciate it, be sure to hit that like button, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and be sure to hit that bell so you can see when we do more content, which in this frame is reacting to other people who have done content. Cool. See you guys again real fucking soon.